So how did the fire guys actually start up?
My background is multidisciplinary fire and security. Did an apprenticeship in the UK, about 10 years experience there, and came to New Zealand for the Rugby World Cup for a bit of a party.
2011.
Yeah, fell in love with the country and decided to stay. And when I decided I was going to stay, I got into the fire industry here and quickly progressed through my roles through the knowledge and the skills I picked up in the UK. And worked for a couple of companies. Had frustrations at the way things are done, just differently. Not bagging New Zealand. I love New Zealand. I love the way Kiwis are, and work-life balance is great. But I saw a real gap in the market for a smaller, more personable provider who takes real care of their customers and has integrity in what they do. So I made the jump after 6 years of being in New Zealand, which was 6-7 years ago. Thought, small company, personable company. I realised quite quickly that when you do things well, the customers come. It starts to grow.
Yeah, that's right. You end up being not a small company, you end up being a bigger company.
Yeah.
I imagine when you got here and being from the UK, that operate to a different level over there, right? And everything would be like sort of more about health and safety and regulations and that sort of thing. Yeah,
there's a lot more emphasis on quality of the product you're putting in. There's a lot more stringent inspections and peer reviewing. Companies have to be professionally licensed to carry out what they do, which means spot inspections from third-party accreditors anywhere at any time. No, everything here is sort of inspected as it goes in, and then once it's in, it's self-monitored. So IQPs like myself, they have a team of people that go in and check it, and that's how it carries on. Whereas in the UK, to hold the license to be a provider, installer, and maintainer, you have to allow these guys to come in every now and then, go through your workbook of sites and spot inspect. So it's a real, if you fail it, you lose your ability to operate. So,
like forever.
Yeah, well, you'll get penalties, and then like anything, there'll be lenience depending on the severity of the.
But I imagine like people start rubbing their hands together when they hear someone from the UK from the fire industry. They're like, that'd be gold compared to certain other countries potentially, like because of the standards that you operate to.
Oh, look, I wouldn't say so. I think every country does things differently. I don't like to be arrogant about it by any means. I just noticed that there's quite a lack of training in this country. I don't know for what reason, but seems to be quite a small talent pool in lots of niche industries. And a lot of international immigrants.
Well, that's a good point, because where do you guys get your staff from? Like, do they come out of a qualification, out of a trade, or out of high school or university? Where do the actual, say, the techs come from?
Well, this is something I noticed straight away, and it was a frustration point of mine when I was working in other companies here, is that there's a lot of poaching from other companies, and there was established companies previously, 15, 20 years ago, that used to do a lot of training, and they're now working for all these other companies, and I feel like there's a hesitance to train staff because they worry that they're just going to jump ship once they become qualified, and that does happen. But it's something that we rely heavily on, is training young staff. It's quite hard to find young kids these days that are willing to work for a low wage for a period of time until they learn the skills. But it's incredibly valuable if you treat them right and keep them loyal.
Yeah, I think it always happens. Some of these kids want to start at the top and.
Yes,
they want the big dollars straight away.
Won't go there too
much. And that's so. Yeah, where do people actually come? Like, what sort of qualifications do you need to enter the actual industry?
You don't really need anything as an entry, as a trainee. We do. It's a advantage if there's a young kid who's got some electronic background or some mechanical background. But generally, if you're a smart kid, we offer training as part of a traineeship. It's not really an actual apprenticeship, but it's a traineeship where they learn the fire industry over a period of years, and however quickly they get through their book work and their on-site tasks.
So did you start that up with your
company? No. It's a New Zealand recognised qualification. It's a level 4 fire protection. There's one in fire detection systems, and there's one in fixed fire, so sprinklers.
God, you think for such an important part of like buildings, health and safety systems, and fire systems and things. You think there would be some sort of conveyor belt or training program for people to do to get into the industry? It just sounds like it's not as good as it could be, or
look, it's a good qualification and a training method, but like it just seems like not enough people do it, and it's probably for the reasons I said before. And also I think the growth of particularly Auckland is so large that you're always playing catch up on labour resources, and new companies popping up, people need new people are jumping and changing. It's an investment in money and time to train people, and can be very frustrating when people leave straight after.
Jump ship. Yeah. You see that, and I guess because New Zealand is a small country, you do see that with a lot of industries in Auckland around property and buildings and things. You see the same people, but they company hop. I guess it's just part and parcel of being a small country, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, I guess you probably see the same. Maybe not so much now, but your team will see it. You'll see fire technicians from one company turn up at one building one day and then another building the next day.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've seen that. And in say like the lift industry as well. Very small pool of talent there. I guess it's a concern, but at the same time, how do you think things are going from a perspective of, like say with the construction boom and things? Has that made your guys' company more busy? Like, do you do installs, or is it mainly just maintenance that you do?
Yeah, so a large part of my background and my skill expertise is the installation side of it, from design, build, sprinkler and alarm systems, and that's a large part of why my business grew so quickly. We made relationships with a few main contractors, and they loved the way we operate and the way our guys did what they did on site, and quickly became almost nominated contractors, getting all their work. And even if you only have a few, all these opportunities that come in, they're willing to pay top dollar for your service. So you've got to bring the people in to deliver. That meant that my business grew rapidly within the first, I think it was mid-third year, and I had something like 38 staff employed.
Wow. And
about 50-something contractors. That was crazy times, but we managed that, and it kept on top of what we had. We're just turning a lot of work down.
Good position to be in, though, like when you can start to turn work away. You're not just taking everything and anything. Yeah,
definitely a good position to be in, but a hard one to manage when you're quite new to business, and I know when you're in construction, you're only as close to the edges of the cliff as your next project.
Yeah, true.
So it's always trying to forecast, and all of that was very new to me coming into starting a business. Was forecasting that revenue, looking at construction programs to work out when one project's going to finish, next one's going to start. It's a real challenge. Yeah.
Had you always wanted to start your own business?
I think I always had, but I thought the UK's a funny place. It's a lot more competitive, I think, than here. There's a lot more barriers to entry with regards to not only starting a business, but to progression in your career. It's almost like a kind of attitude of people don't want to see you do well until you've earned your stripes.
Oh, yeah, right.
Whereas when I came here, I noticed quite a difference. A lot more opportunity, to grow and to progress if you work hard and you do a good job. So I really saw an opportunity straight away when I was working with these other companies, in that there were certain people in certain positions which I thought I could do a better job than, and I thought, why not have a crack at it myself? Work as hard as I am in my job as I could in my own business, and it's worked well for so far.
And so, what was there like a bit of a light bulb moment when you went, I'm going to start my own business?
There was probably several. And I think it was that whole getting to know and working with and knowing other directors or owners of businesses in both my industry and other industries, and thinking, how the hell is he doing so well at what he does? I think with less work I could do a lot better, but I'm pretty driven and passionate for what I do, so you never stop me working hard and focusing on my customers.
But even where to start a business, like what's that first step that you take? You go, okay, I'm going to start a business. You have a plan or whatever, but there's still that initial thing where you're like, shit, I've got no clients, I actually don't know what I'm doing, but you just go out there and you just make it happen.
Yeah.
Did you have a similar sort of thing to that, or?
Yeah, I mean, I saw opportunities for cash flow and stuff, and had no real idea on where to start, but I found that it was amazingly easy to actually start the business.
Yeah, it's almost too easy.
Yeah, is that it?
Yeah.
So what else do you want from me?
Yeah. I think that barrier to entry thing that you said before, rightly or wrongly, like sometimes there needs to be a barrier to entry to certain industries, and sometimes they need to maybe just pull back on it a bit just to allow a bit more competition. Did you find, like, is there sort of an established like old boys club or hierarchy within the industry? Like, did that happen at all in the industry that you're in?
Yes, massively, and it continues to go on. Certain people who have earned their stripes again within the senior companies in the country. Yeah, I won't call it arrogance or whatever, but they I'm this passionate young Englishman,
the new kid on the block,
come over here and he's working his ass off and grown a successful business. I mean, it's less noisy now than it was, but certainly starting off it was almost pretty nasty at times.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of sucks really. Like, it's we should be welcoming competition in that, but I guess those older established companies, they think, oh, there's a threat, especially from someone that grew so quickly and is doing such a great job. You're out there providing your service to the best of your ability, and you're probably outshining a lot of the established guys, and they're like, shit, who's this guy? That can be, even just negotiating that as a challenge can be tough.
Yeah, but also I kind of take that as a massive compliment, and it really drives me on. Nice. Has driven me on in the past, and I think when that goes on, I just think, well, I must be doing something right if I'm worrying these guys, because I'd love to be anything like these guys,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we talk about the actual fire systems within buildings, and I guess that's we have interaction with these systems. Obviously, we leave all the technical stuff to you guys, but we're aware of the different systems in the buildings. Like, you've got your sprinklers, you've got your smokes, you've got your all your sounders, your diesel pumps, and the riser, and a whole lot of things in these buildings. And I guess all those systems are there to to keep people safe and essentially save lives at the end of the day. Can you talk us through, like, the different components of fire protection in a typical sized, say, residential building?
Yeah, so the services we provide as an IQP and as a compliance fire protection specialist are everything from sprinkler systems, so routine regular testing and maintenance of sprinkler systems, alarm systems, emergency lighting systems, backflow preventers, hydrant systems, smoke curtains, passive fire and smoke separations, fire doors, exit paths, smoke control systems, so ventilation systems, dampers, stairwell pressurization systems. The list goes on, and that's something we pride ourselves on. Within our business, we have 3 IQPs, so we have a huge amount of sort of multidiscipline, diverse knowledge and sign-off capabilities within these different systems, not just fire.
So you if we go from say an install, like there's a new building being built, they say it's going to have like a full-on sprinkler system with a diesel pump and all that sort of thing. Take us through from, say, what are the challenges of installing a system like that, and then once it's installed, what are the ongoing requirements for that system?
So sprinkler and alarm systems go hand in hand for installation because they're connected and together. But the design build aspect, so there's a full sprinkler design, hydraulic calculations and demands, which has to be verified by AON, third-party inspector, before you do anything on site. And then there's a whole process of installation, of course, along with other services, coordination, testing, inspection, all the way through to the process to handover. The part where we're talking about, like with yourself, with building managers and that, so if the sprinkler has a diesel pump, it needs to be run for 15 minutes every week to stop it deteriorating and keep it going. It's like any car, it needs to be started, otherwise it won't go. And then we need to do monthly tests on both the sprinkler system and the alarm system.
Monthly, and then there's these annual tests that happen too. Is it more like along the lines of inspecting the different, like the sprinklers and then the sounders as well? Do you guys do that sort of thing?
Yeah, of course. So the sprinkler system is tested routinely, and then every year they come in and test. They do but every 2 years a biannual inspection. So that's a third party. They come in and basically check the sprinkler system over, make sure everything's okay, and then provide a report, which I'm sure you guys have seen many times. Many
times indeed. And then there's also there's the regular maintenance of those systems, right? Because they're designed for 50 years to. What's the life of a sprinkler system? Is it the same as like a life of a building, which is about 50 years or so?
Yeah.
So then you've also got to replace parts of it every. I know there's like a quadrennial overhaul, valve overhaul, and all that sort of. I still remember this terminology.
Yeah. Look, you say 50 years. It's designed to last a long time, but it's pipes carrying water. So over time things deteriorate, and you're referring to a valve overhaul. So there's a control valve where the water comes into the building and then goes into the building. It comes from the ground and into the building, and it's just basically maintaining that and replacing rubber seals and stuff.
What's the difference between is it a dry riser and a charged riser?
So nowadays you only get charged risers, and it's basically just a small line from a plumbing system into the riser at the bottom to keep the whole building full of water, so that when the fire service plug their hose onto the floor, they'll plug from the street or the truck into the bottom and to blow water up to the top. But in a dry riser, they have to fill that before it comes out onto the floor, whereas the charge riser has enough water in it to get it going straight away.
There's a guy, Jason, I can't remember his last name, but he was, I'm not sure if he's still out there, he must be, from Nova. And they used to come around and test the risers every year with his fire truck. And is he still going?
Still going.
Yes, he's a good man. And some buildings would be bloody awesome to go and see the riser being, what do you call it, released, or bloody
flow test.
Because it'd just be like a couple of 1,000 litres of water all over the neighbours or whatever. It's quite a sight, but like a geyser. So that's a subcontracted service. So you guys wouldn't do that sort of
thing? No. We don't have the fire truck just yet.
Yeah, just yet. So it's in the pipeline.
Who knows?
Yeah. So with installing a new system, what are some of the challenges around installing a new sprinkler system into the building? Is it basically about design or solving problems as you go?
Yeah, there's like I said, it's nowadays most new construction has a pre-design from a consultant, and depending on which consultant it is, the quality of that design varies. So they've still got this, which it almost gives us fire installer companies a chance to price apples for apples as such, with regards to pipe sizes and how the system's laid out. And we take that and we redesign it and calc it and make sure it's compliant, and it's going to work with the water flow that's in the street. There's all sorts of challenges really. It's expensive stuff, pipe, and I was listening to your man Chris from Watershed the other day, and we've had a 60% increase in pipe price in 6 months. And that's over month by month by month. So we're finding a big challenge at the moment is securing work, and what he was talking about, off-site material claims there and then. Otherwise, you're constantly rise and fall contracts in every contract, rise and fall clauses in every contract, because otherwise you'll price a job, and on a job, a big apartment building, you could be talking 20-50 grand increase in that next week if they go, here's another 20% increase. So it's challenging enough trying to install these intricate systems, but COVID and supply chain problems have created more problems for us.
Exactly, because there's a lot of design and calculation and engineering and stuff, and I guess science as well behind sprinkler systems as an example. I remember when we first started out learning, from a tech that, we don't have sprinklers in here, but the rows on the sprinkler head has got different shapes and that to create different droplet sizes for different areas, and I was kind of blown away by that. I was like, shit, they actually think down to literally the millimeter droplet size to be able to calculate how to put a fire out in a certain space. Well, that kind of blew me away, and I was like, I didn't even think that was a thing. But man, there's a lot that goes on behind designing a fire system, eh?
Yeah, there's a couple of big projects we've done recently with huge tall racking systems and in-rack sprinklers, and it's all to do with the volume of water that needs to come out of the sprinkler. And we had to do pre-orders from America of specialist equipment, and and stuff. So,
is that something that intrigued you about your industry? Was all the stuff that goes on in the background, or were you more just like the actuals of doing it?
Yeah, I think my passion for the industry has always come from protecting people and property. And sounds cheesy, but it kind of gives you a real solid something to hold on to. What we do and what we do matters, and you can save people's life, and you can save what is most important to most people and their assets, which is property. Yeah,
literally, you got the most important thing, which is people's lives, and then in a lot of cases the most important or the biggest asset they have is their property. So you're dealing with literally people and property are the top two sort of things in, dare I say, society, but two most important things, right?
Yeah.
It's the more the more I learn about it and just little tips that we pick up over the years, like the more you sort of appreciate how much actually goes into designing these systems and stuff, and to keep people safe. That's a heat detector, right?
Yeah.
So that would work based on, so if there was a fire in here, what would happen with that?
So it would wait until the building got to a certain temperature, depending on what the element is there to sense, and then it would just evacuate the whole building. And then you'd have to wait for either your incumbent service provider or the fire service to turn up and silence.
False alarms are a bit of a classic, like the amount of people that in apartment buildings, especially if they burn their toast or burn their dinner or something, and they open the door into the common area. As soon as those common area things are activated, away it goes.
Again, that's down to education from the fire service provider. We always try to make sure that everybody's aware. Open your window, not your corridor door, because it's going to save you money and it's going to save a lot of stress. It's one of the hardest part of our jobs is turning up. Technicians turning up in the middle of the night when a large building is emptied on the street. It's a pretty high stress situation for them. They've got multiple angry people and people in their underwear and stuff in the middle of the night. Fire service, angry building managers, not from active, they're all nice and calm.
That's right. But, that's the one, sure.
But it's it's another thing. A lot of companies would deliberately hope that happens more often because it's revenue for us. But for long-term relationships with clients, we want to point a difference where you can educate people beforehand, and then we offer a premium service for a premium price on the standard inspection stuff, and then on the back end we're not going to create problems to make money, to make up for undercutting, which is a big problem in our industry. That's
the thing, it becomes price competitive, and then people start cutting corners. Not saying you guys cut corners or your industry cut corners, but that tends to happen in a lot of industries where it starts to become more and more price competitive. People go, we can do it for that, and they try and find ways to cut back on their service and stuff. Clearly you guys have found a hell of a niche with growing your business, and that's not how you operate.
No, and you were just saying now about false alarms and stuff. So we'll pick up buildings and they've been serviced by certain people for multiple years, and we'll go in and there'll be problems everywhere that haven't been picked up, and again it comes down to price and care about what's going on. Some people, it's not a want to have, it's a need to have, and some people have that attitude, unfortunately, and will go with somebody who's super cheap. If you go with them, you're going to get a cheap service and a potentially dangerous service.
Absolutely. And you can't muck around with that sort of stuff, because you are dealing with people's lives at the end of the day. And I guess the chances of these systems actually activating really is quite remote. A sprinkler activation doesn't happen all that often, but when it does, it's got to bloody work, and that's why you do all the testing, and that's why these things are inspected so often. I've seen some real clangers over the years where we go in and assist with the sprinkler inspection and stuff, and people have got like bloody clothes like hangers like hanging through them, and they've got things like wrapped around the sprinkler, or they've covered the smoke sensor and stuff, and it's like bloody hell. They just don't seem to get it that those things are there, in case in case there's a fire.
We had one recently. He said the sprinklers don't go off very often, but when they do, it's pretty impressive.
It is,
it was a 12-story apartment. Somebody had left the cooking on and chipped fat on the pan, and it had gone off flame. And it did its job. It put out the fire, but it flooded that apartment, that corridor, and about 2 levels underneath, because it just drained through all the risers. But the photos from our technicians, the guy had put apples on all the sprinklers in the room after it happened, because it was obviously still dripping once they turned the water off and it was drained.
Apples?
It was apples stuck on the sprinklers.
Bloody hell.
Yeah.
Apples.
Yeah.
That's a new one, man. I haven't heard of apples. I've heard like people put socks and bloody all that, like in the Glad wrap or whatever. But apples, we'll give him that. That's ingenuitive. But yeah, I guess the first time you see a sprinkler go off, because not really knowing, you think, oh, it must just be like a shower. But man, it's full on. The amount of pressure and water that comes out of there and how far it goes.
Yeah.
And you often find that most of the damage actually is from the water. Because once it's put the fire out, then you've got to wait for the guys to turn the system off, and that water's just cascading down the building. Yeah, it's hell of an experience.
I'll say it's very rare that the sprinkler system won't operate because it's pipes, it's inspected through its installation. It's always full of water. It's more the negligence comes in with the fire alarm system. So you every year you have to do your annual inspection, which is basically testing the whole system, not testing all the detection devices, but all of the evacuation devices, making sure all the sounders work and all of that. And these things fail over time through false alarms, through testing, through whatever. Speakers, it's an electronic component, it will fail. And if people don't carry out these tests properly, people sleep in their apartments. If it hasn't been tested and it's not working, they won't wake up.
Yeah. Have you ever had to retrofit or replace a sprinkler system in a building, like in an old building? Because I guess I've never seen a sprinkler system have to be replaced in a building, and I'm thinking, shit, if that actually is required to happen at some point in the building's life, that's a major Like, would you ever actually have to need to replace an entire system?
Replace? No. If there's one there, usually it will be extending it or maintaining it. But installing retrofit in buildings, yes, it's a painful process.
It's invasive, Like you've got to cut through jib and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, sometimes depending on the client or the building, they'll strip it out and we'll put it in. But if it wants to be surface installed, it's a grunty industrial looking system in a nice finished building.
Yeah. And I think potentially that's a lot of these new apartments are going for the industrial look, no sort of ceilings and stuff. Yeah. Like that could be quite helpful in a lot of cases, I guess. But if people like looking at pipes and stuff, which some people do, pipes and wires and things. Yeah. Do you guys ever get involved with from a design point of view?
Yeah. We've got a design team who design sprinkler, alarm, and hydrant systems.
And so the difference between, are you necessarily going to have all of these systems in a building, or would you just have a smoke or just a sprinkler or fire extinguisher still? Do they still do fire hoses?
No, fire hoses. There's existing ones still out there, but they're not installed new now.
Yeah, but would you necessarily, what sort of difference in building would you have where you just needed one or the other, or do you always have to have all those systems?
So when someone plans to build a development or a building, there's a few things that they have to get before they get building consent from council, and one of them is a fire engineering report. So the fire engineer will assess the building, assess the occupancy load, assess the egress paths, assess the fire separations, and through that we'll come to the conclusion on what type of systems need to go into that building. And they will come to us and say, we need some fire systems installed. We'll say, well, give us your fire engineering report, architectural drawings, we'll give you a price on what needs to go in, and a design build, or whether there's already a consultant's design, and then basically they tell us what to do with a dumb contractor.
How do you guys go when you say your business grew because you were taking business off other people? So when you take business off other people, you're inheriting potentially a system that they would have installed from brand new. How do you find taking over another company's, the system belongs to the building, but how do you find taking over a system that's been installed by another company?
It depends who the company is, and it depends how stringently it's been peer review inspected on handover. It's a really hard one sometimes when it's a company that's I'm trying to think of a nice word of saying
shit.
Yes, because you've just bought a building or built a building or leased a building, and you've been recommended to work with somebody as a fire provider. Will come in, they've just spent X amount, thousands of dollars having their systems installed, and we'll come along and say that this needs fixing, this needs fixing, this needs fixing. And there's a real skill and art to building that relationship and trust and transparency and outlaying the information to show them that the standard says it should be like this. It's not like this. Quite often, you know, they won't trust you and they'll go to someone else, and hopefully they'll go to another reputable contractor because they'll say, yeah, they're right. Sometimes they'll go somewhere else and they'll say, no, it's okay, we'll take it on.
But do they design their systems in a way that sort of they only know, or is they all fairly open?
It's more of an fire alarm issue in that it's very rarely pre-designed. It's a design build. The guys on site install it as they see it. It's more easily changed and moved. You can move a ceiling tile and it's out of rule. It's for example, these two heat detectors here are non-compliant because they're too close to that aircon unit, right above our head.
Thanks, mate. Might have to edit that out. I better tell the bit.
But it's as easy as shifting them over a tile.
Yeah.
But I could show you the standard book now, and it would show you that this system's non-compliant.
Mate, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Actually, it's probably a year because this is our unit. This is our thing. So.
So once a year they should come through and do a visual inspection of.
Yeah, they do.
Areas.
That's been like that for years.
Yeah, they should do a visual inspection of all areas and also an audible, so set the sounders off, walk through, go in the rooms, close the doors, make sure decibel reader, make sure that you reach 65 decibels in all areas, which I'm guessing that might not happen either because there's no siren inside this room. But it's a very common thing.
That's a smoke detector,
Yeah.
Yeah, we had an activation or a test about 2 weeks ago, and then we had an actual activation about 2 months ago before that. But that's a bloody good point, because I guess as the property owner, we bought the thing like that, and I'm kind of a bit pissed off actually that it hasn't been picked up by someone historically. I'm not saying like it's I'm not trying to point the finger at anyone, but it's like they obviously haven't been checking.
It all comes down to, like I said before, knowledge and training. So if you're in a company and you're on volume and you've got a huge amount of clients, you need a huge amount of staff to service those sites and for whether it's negligence or not, they're not all going to have the expertise to pick things up as quickly as that. For example,
Shit. Is that a bit of a curse for you? Like you walk around, go to the mall and you see all these bloody issues?
Try not to,
Get to Eden Park and you're like, oh, that's not right. Or
training my daughter to pick up defects on fire systems. Not yet.
Good stuff. Okay, so those need to be moved. So, say they need to be moved that way, or
just away, just away from the airflow.
Yeah. And so, what about with say sprinklers? Like they have to be a certain distance from walls and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's all mapped out as per a design, and like I said, you can't really just shift a sprinkler. It's a fixed pipe. You get flexi droppers which can move a bit, but generally it stays where it was put in.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, that's good to know. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
I'll tell someone about that and we'll get that fixed.
Maybe you need a new service provider.
I know. We'll have to tell the Body Corp here, and they can look at it. I know who we'll be putting forward. That's for sure. Funny. Okay. So as far as your industry goes, were you saying before that you have an industry body that controls or has oversight of everyone?
Yeah, there's the Fire Protection Association New Zealand, which you become a member of. It's not an obligation to be a company, but to be a reputable one for sure. There are sort of larger clients that will stipulate you must be on there, and there's other third-party accreditors who survey newly installed systems, and for sprinklers they do these biannual inspections. So it's a real third-party check. So there's no what's the word? Revenue gathering from the company who's come in on a low testing and maintenance contract, and he's looking for problems to create some revenue. It gives you that separation,
This one thing I was talking about with I think it was Ian from BC Group was the requirement, or say if you do an upgrade of a system, you've got to bring it up to like current standards. But if you've just got an existing system, you don't have to bring it up to standards unless you're like modifying it or something. Is that right?
Yeah, that's completely right. So basically, unless you trigger building consent in your property, you have no obligation to upgrade anything. and you will need building consent to upgrade. So any major alteration to a specified system, is what I call it, in any of those systems I mentioned earlier, if you need to do a major replacement or alteration, then you need building consent to do that. Let alone somebody telling you need to upgrade it because it's old. It still operates as it was designed to do when it was installed.
That's right. Yeah, because we had there was a bit of a period where fire companies would say, we recommend that you upgrade this, and it's like, I guess if you didn't dig into it and do your research, you'd probably just say, you'd probably just go with them. But we sort of thought, it's a recommendation, and then we looked back through the the literature, and sure enough, we didn't have to do it, and they were sort of making it out like we did have to do it. But yeah, there was no changes going on, but it's like they were kind of just maybe fishing for a bit of work, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, trying to get some more money in the bank.
Yeah.
But it's through meeting people like yourself and your team, it's a common frustration from them and a common frustration from me in that it will come to sign off time. It will come to your BWOF is due and you need to get your 12A from your fire provider, and then all of a sudden you'll find a whole lot of stuff that needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
And that's something we've worked closely on to try and give plenty of notice to our clients through providing asset registers of equipment they've got installed in their buildings, how old it is, what's the recommended shelf life of that equipment, when's it likely to start failing, when should you start cleaning smoke detectors, when might your panel need replacing, so it's not such a shock. And that really works, especially with body corps. Yeah.
So do you recommend a bit more of a service plan around those things, like cleaning the detectors and stuff? Because it's not really a common thing, is it, to have to clean the smoke detectors? It's more like they just sort of get replaced after X amount of years.
It's not common for most people, but for us, we promote it because to get a couple of guys to come in and clean a high foot traffic area, so you clean these detectors out and they're full of crap and they're ready to go off at any moment. So if you get a couple of guys in, they go through all your common areas, places like schools and supermarkets or offices where there's aircon going all the time. You get a couple of guys to come in once every 6 months or so to give them a clean. You'll have no false alarms.
Absolutely.
And false alarms might not be that costly there and then, but you have your downtime of your staff and everyone in the street. You have the stress of it. It's a nuisance,
Yeah. We had a situation in a building years ago where the common area smoke alarms kept activating, and it was down to this kept on going. No one could figure out what the bloody problem was. But what it was like some moths had gotten into one of the detectors and laid eggs, and as these things were hatching, or just even a bit of breeze over them would sort of move them, and then they'd activate. Yeah, so that was kind of a weird one, but eventually got to the bottom of it, and hence the need to clean them regularly.
Yeah, very common. Insects.
Yeah.
They like going in there and breeding.
Yeah, I guess it's nice and warm and sheltered in that. What are the different? Because what's that smoke alarm there? Can you tell what type that is? Because I know you get the photo sensor ones. What are the other types of smoke alarms?
Photoelectric smoke detectors are the most efficient and recommended ones now. There used to be an ionisation detector, which has a radioactive element and it needs special disposal, but photoelectric's the way to go. But it's quite unusual that you've got them in here because they're not connected to the fire alarm system, so they shouldn't really be in here.
Okay.
They're like somebody's just screwed them up.
Can you tell me some more stuff that's wrong?
So this whole building will have just heat detection,
right,
linked to the fire alarm system. Yeah. Somebody's put these smokes in here as a localized because by the time you're hot enough in here for the fire alarm to go off, there's going to be a real fire.
Yeah.
Whereas a smoke detector is going to pick it up pretty quickly as soon as there's something smouldering.
Yeah.
But it's usually not done whilst you've got a fire alarm system there.
Yeah, and out in that part of the thing is like really high ceiling too, so yeah. Okay. Do I have to look into that?
Maybe you need maybe you need a new service provider. I'll say it again.
I'm going to recommend it, man, because it's actually concerned me, because all these units, they're all different, because people have done their own fit outs and what have you. And man, I'm kind of freaking out a bit now that we all need to just get a decent independent check of the current provider and just say, here's the problems, because they're clearly not doing it. Like I can't remember the guy. We've been here for a couple of years now. I can't remember the people coming in and actually having a look. So
yeah, that's something I'm actively promoting, and I did with your team when I met them a couple of weeks ago. is even if there's no push to change, we can offer a independent. It's not independent because I'm a competitor, but we can have a look and we can give you some recommendations, and you can pass them on to your service provider.
Yeah, that's cool. We'll do that. Man, concern. All you've done is come in here and freak me out. It's good. It's good to actually get some education around it, because otherwise we'd be none the wiser, and who knows what might happen.
Yeah.
What's the what do you enjoy about the industry? Like you said before, you like at a personal level you like the the people in the property side, but what else do you enjoy about the fire industry?
That's what I enjoy. It's very technical. There's lots to learn. You never stop learning. There's always efficiencies and innovations with equipment and ways of protecting property and people. I think I take real pride in job satisfaction and customer satisfaction. It almost drives me more than money half the time. Is that reputation, the brand, these guys do a good job. If you want a good job done, go to these guys. It's something I'm really proud about.
Yeah, good point. And I think obviously the hard work that you've put in over the years, and you've recently had a company merger. You've merged with another company as well.
Yeah.
What was the sort of the plan behind that?
So as I mentioned earlier, I didn't elaborate too much, give myself something to talk about. But within that first, so I think we're 7 years in business now. I think it was just over 4 years, rapid growth. I'm a really passionate client person, fire person, team person. I love my team, but I haven't had that MBA or that. I've learned everything the hard way as I've gone, and we were growing so fast, and the opportunities on the horizon saw us able to double our workforce within another 2 years or something. I was approached by a chap from Australia, similar passion for the fire industry, had a successful consultancy business in New Zealand called Kaizen Group, and he'd always been scratching around, seeing if there was an opportunity to join forces with a fire company, and I met him over a year before we actually signed up. Lengthy negotiations, wanted to make sure we were on the same page, and then we actually settled during the first lockdown, would you believe? Quite unusual. So that was how COVID impacted us, but it's been 2.5 years now, and we've got within the group we've got shared resource, which is health and safety, finance, accounting, all of the stuff that as a passionate guy is very handy to have someone else dealing with. But we've also got other consultancy businesses. We've got a facade engineering and business, so building enclosure. They design weather-tight buildings. Quantity surveying business, which also do a lot of project management, and a really growing fire engineering business. So it's a really diverse professional services and our services, but it's going really well, and there's a real crossover with clients, and
you're almost like a one-stop shop.
Exactly. That's I think that's the idea. One day is to be able to do a turnkey property solution.
So do you market that to developers at all?
Like I said, we're all in our own little bubbles, pushing on, growing, and there's always opportunities to cross-reference work and stuff, but we're a little way away from being a turnkey, because there's so many different facets to come to, which involve building a building.
But I guess if you're working towards that goal, that's pretty exciting. And so did the acquisition or the merger, did that continue your business growth?
It happened during the first lockdown, which was really exciting in really uncertain times. But it also the projected growth we had took a big hit from developers canning projects, people delaying projects, and all sorts. And we have continued to grow, but that sort of spurt that we were foreseeing took a bit of a hit, but we're still on the up.
Yeah, good one. Do you guys work all around the country or just in Auckland?
We're Auckland based, but we've got workers in Christchurch, covering some of that, and through our Auckland base we service clients sort of mid North Island to lower Northland.
In Rakino Island.
Yeah, Rakino Island. We were speaking about that one earlier.
That was good. And so, like, I guess in an industry that's so like heavily would you call it heavily regulated still in New Zealand?
Yeah, for sure.
It is. What are the what are the challenges for you guys industry moving forward? And are those challenges the same in other countries as well?
I believe the challenges here are the workforce. As I mentioned before, it's such a lack of people. We've actually employed someone now, but we had a project manager leave, and I ran 3 ads, I think, a little bit of shoulder tapping, but the 3 ads, I had 1 suitable applicant, who we actually employed but didn't turn out to be a suitable applicant.
Oh God.
And I was referencing the UK, where if you run the same ad, you'd probably have 20-30 applicants, and you'd be turning away 10 good ones. So I know it's a real. There should be more emphasis on training and promoting the industry to young people as a real trade and as a real future progression point for them. Because I think either people don't know about it, or they think it's not a proper trade. You know, it's not. You're not a builder. You're not a sparky. You're not a plumber.
Yeah.
The fire protection industry, you can earn real good money, and because of that lack of talent pool, there's huge opportunities for the right people.
Massive. I was talking to someone yesterday who's facing the same problem in the air industry. They're just saying that there's sort of a real lack of people coming into it. And we sort of talked about, well, do you lobby the government to say, look, we need to start promoting this through high schools, like through career days, or just get some sort of momentum behind it to actually advertise to people that, hey, this is a bloody sought after career. It's much needed. It's essential. And just to get people into it, because they're finding that the same sort of thing as you. They're advertising, and there's no one out there. Bigger concern is that, say, 5 years down the track, if they haven't solved that problem, there's going to be literally even less, people coming into the industry. So, what you got any sort of ideas about how you can solve that?
Like I said, it's all about education. Maybe I don't know, trade schools, just letting people know that there's opportunities out there, and it's a specialised trade. There's so much to learn, and if you're passionate about it, you're making a difference, and you're saving people's lives. You know?
Yeah. So I was going to ask before about, do you guys have any crossover with the fire department?
Yeah, we do a lot of work with the fire service, particularly around approving fire service and location of when you turn up to the building. You've got your fire alarm panel or your mimic panel, and the location of your inlets for their trucks. So that's all coordinated at an early stage in the development process, and through that there's a lot of toing and froing, and they're pretty good in general. Yeah,
because I guess when the alarm is sounding, then the fire tech turns up. The fire department might just be leaving. They kind of do have a brief thing there, but I was just wondering if there's any sort of like crossover, or do you guys consult with each other at all?
That crossover is usually more of a confrontation. if it's a false alarm on a system that keeps false alarming, and they keep getting call out, it used to be. I think it used to be $1,000 to the client per call out, but they've scrapped that now. But there's now a process of I think if it's 3 or more, there has to be a real plan in place to resolve the issue, and you have to show that you've really put some emphasis on fixing it, and it doesn't always happen. And these guys are turning up to different false activations from different companies all the time, so they're dealing with proactive companies and not so proactive companies. And I've been on the receiving end of that myself a few times. And it takes a special set of skills to calm a crew of firemen down.
Exactly. Because I mean, like, that's they'd much rather be fighting real fires than bloody false alarms and stuff. And
exactly.
I forgot what I was going to say there, but it was just around. I thought there might have been a bit more like collaboration between the guys who make the systems, maintain the systems, and then the ones that have to turn up, to actually fight the fires.
Generally only when it goes wrong.
Yep.
Yeah,
fair enough. So the negatives in the industry, like aside from finding people, do you think that some of the challenges that you've got coming up, have they actually got answers, or are they sort of like everyone's sort of scratching their head in the industry?
There's different ways of dealing with stuff. There's a lot of immigration, there's a lot of skilled migrants coming in, and that helps, but I don't think it's a long-term solution. Like I said, I did my apprenticeship nearly 20 years ago, and it's very common. I had to fight for my place on it, and I came out at the end of it with a really good set of skills. I was paid very, very little for 4 years, but that was the sacrifice I was willing to take at a young age, and it paid dividends. There just doesn't seem to be that sort of. I don't know. I've been here so long now. I don't know if it's a international thing, but certainly is here.
Yeah. So we see these every building's, like we were saying before. You've got some sort of fire protection, whether it's smoke, sprinkler, extinguishers, etc. Is there any sort of technology being developed in the industry that's going to change that, or are we always going to see the same types of systems?
There's products. There's products being used in commercial properties where we used to have your standard point type heat detection like this, which has parts in it that fall apart over time and false alarm, and now we're using a thing called linear heat detection, which I was using it 10-15 years ago in the UK, but it's become very common here now. So it's just a cable, a long cable that runs along the length of a roof in a warehouse or a high level or an inaccessible area, and if the heat reaches a certain temperature, it will short the cable out and set the alarm off. It saves a lot of money on installation cost and false alarms in the future. And there's also a company I used to work for in the UK who developed their own product, and they've started importing it here now, and they have a built-in smoke detector with a evacuation speaker inside it, or siren. So that's a bit of an innovation. It saves the amount of things you have to have on your ceiling in your nice high-end penthouse.
I was talking to someone about that the other day. You're in some of these beautiful homes, up in the clouds pretty much, and you look up and the ceiling is just busy with sensors and sprinklers and speakers and bloody all sorts of things, emergency lights, and it's like far out. It'd be nice if they weren't there. They're obviously there for a reason, but it kind of does look a bit messy.
Yes, architects hate us.
Yeah. Because they don't show those in the architectural renders. You see all these plans and stuff, and it looks beautiful. Then the functional life-saving support's got to be added. And I guess that's just part of it, So obviously, clearly owning your own business, and you had the really good success and stuff like that, which is awesome. And I think Kiwis are pretty bad at celebrating success, but I think that you get that tall poppy thing in New Zealand, and it can be quite demoralising at times when you hear success stories and all people do is shoot them down. What are you most proud of in your business career so far with what you've done?
People talk about success, and yourself, you own a business, and people will say it's a successful business, but success is hard to define. I think is it money, is it size, is it reputation, or is it lifestyle?
And or all of the above.
Part of all of them. But I think the achievements I've made in a short amount of time with very little business experience, I'm quite proud of the natural ability I've shown, and the ability to weather a few storms and be extremely resilient in the face of fierce competition and all sorts of problems.
In a new country as well, that's moving to a new country can be daunting, but you've managed to set up a life and a business in a new country, so that's not easy.
I think also I came from quite a tough working town in a city called Portsmouth, home of the British Navy in the UK, and I think the people you surround yourself with. I came here and I was surrounded with a lot of UK European immigrants, all quite successful in what they do, some business owners and stuff, and I think you aspire to be the people you surround yourself with.
Absolutely.
Gives you a bit of self-confidence and a bit of a boost to take on the world.
Yeah, man, that's so true. They say you're the sum of the people around you or something like that. You end up, and it's true, man. Whether it's just from a networking or an inspiration point of view, it's and you can certainly tell, if you don't have the right people around you, things can start to deviate off course.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh man, it's been a good chat. It's been just under an hour so far. Oh, yeah. Is there anything else you'd want to talk about fire-wise?
Not really. No.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. I'm just hoping that we've sort of covered all the important stuff, but also maybe stuff that people haven't thought of. So
yeah, I think it's quite a hard subject to captivate the audience. I'm passionate about it, but I'm passionate about doing things right and making sure people have systems that work properly and that are going to do what they're designed to do. And like I said, we're sat here now, and my frustrations. What are your frustrations with the industry? Well, we're sitting right underneath it.
Exactly.
You're paying somebody to check this, and you're not doing it properly. So,
mate, I appreciate you pointing those out for me, and we're definitely going to do something about it, because, like I said, it's a bit unnerving to think that we've got a system that isn't essentially non-compliant.
It's non-compliant. I mean, it's not necessarily going to not activate and not work, but if you're following the standard, it's clearly not compliant, and you're paying for somebody to check it, and somebody's signing it off as compliant. So do your job.
And that's the annoying thing. We've got to get on to the people that have been checking it and signing it off. That's cool. All right, mate. Well, thanks for your time. It's been awesome to have a chat about fire protection.
Appreciate being here.
And congratulations on all the business success so far, and plenty more to come. So all the best, and thanks for the insight into the world of fire protection.
Thanks a lot, mate.
Cheers, man. Good one.